Before we get started, I want to ask everyone to turn off their cell phones or turn on the silent feature. This hearing is being streamed on YouTube. I would ask all those that come forward to speak to an application today to use the microphones provided to ensure that all discussions can be heard clearly. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, the Wendat and people, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. This meeting is being called to order in accordance with Sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act. The Committee of Adjustments considers applications for variances from provisions of the zoning bylaw that applies to the property, permission to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consent to sever property to create new lots. Anyone in attendance today who wants to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must complete a decision request card. These cards are available at the end of this table. Please ensure that you include your email address. Once completed, please give the card to a member of the staff seated to my right. If you don't agree with the decision of the committee, most decisions may be appealed to the Toronto Local Appeal Body. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. More information on the Toronto Local Appeal Body can be found on either their website or City of Toronto website. To ensure a fair and timely hearing, I will vet the agenda to determine which applications can be dealt with immediately and which applications have individuals other than the applicant that wish to address the committee. In other words, applications which are opposed. I will call each item in order and will ask individuals to identify themselves. So if there is opposition, that application will be held until all the non-contested applications are dealt with. If your item is held, we strongly suggest that you meet outside with the applicant and attempt to resolve any concerns or issues. If no person is present in opposition, the item will be called in the order of the agenda for non-contested applications. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant will proceed with their presentation if we require a presentation. The committee may ask questions and/or take the matter into the committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address us. I will comment when you are reaching the 5 minutes. When addressing the committee, please come forward to the podium, clearly state your name and your address, and provide your decision request card to the committee staff. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. You have a written submission you read from. Please hand it to the Deputy Secretary Treasurer when you're done. The applicant or agent will proceed first. Please note, we may not entertain extensive revisions to proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application to ensure that any revisions are accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the application are informed of the changes. Then, after the applicant has presented his or her case, individuals either in support or opposed will be invited to speak. If there are several speakers in opposition sharing the same view, we require you to select a spokesperson to present your group's opinion. We want to hear your views, but we don't want the same points repeated. We may ask questions of each speaker. When all speakers have finished, the applicant agent has an opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the speakers. After the rebuttal, there will be no further discussion. The application will then be taken into committee for discussion. We require a motion to confirm the minutes of the last meeting. Do I have such a motion? A seconder? All in favor? Last minutes confirmed. Are there any declarations of interest for the morning slot? Okay. Are there any files to be closed?
Yes, Mr. Chair. There is an application A0427/19 TEY for 209 Maria Street. The applicant filed the application earlier this year. We sent out a notice for the December 11th public hearing, and they subsequently advised that they no longer want to proceed, so they're not entitled to a refund.
So we have a motion to close the file? Okay. Yes, I hear seconder. All in favor? File is closed. Any deferral requests? Are there any requests for a deferral? Could you come forward, sir?
I thought we were going to...
Let's see. Which number are you on, sir?
I don't have the agenda. 543 Rushton Road.
Number 8. Is there anyone else on this application? Okay. Why do you want a deferral, sir?
We spoke with city planning, and we want to make changes to the drawings to reduce variances. So we'd like to request a deferral.
All right. Do we have any questions? We have a motion. Seconder? Kathleen? All right. All in favor? Have your deferral, sir.
Thank you.
And plus, there's a deferral fee. You understand that? Okay. All right, I'm going to vet the agenda now. Number 1, 25 Minto Street. Applicant, any opposition? We will proceed with that one. Number 2, 2 Glen Road. Applicant, yes. Any opposition to 2 Glen Road? No. Number 3, 115 Boston Avenue. Applicant, any opposition? No. Number 4, 29 Don Valley Drive. Yes. Anybody else here on that application? No. Number 5, 114 Farnham Avenue. Applicant. Yes. Anybody else on that application? Number 6, 14 Gough Avenue. Yes. Anybody else here on that application? Number 7, 94 Cumberland Street. Yes. Anybody else on that application? No. Number 9, 30 Mansfield Avenue. You the applicant? Anybody else on 30 Mansfield? Number 10, 301 Indian Grove. All right. Anybody else on that application? You two are together? Who's the applicant on 301 Indian Grove? You are, sir? Is there opposition to 301 Indian Grove? Your opposition? Okay, we're going to hold that one down. You might want to go outside and see if you can resolve some issues. Number 11, excuse me. Number 11, 204 Shaw Street. Applicant, anybody else on 204 Shaw Street? Number 12, 399 Bathurst Street. Applicant? Yes. Anybody else? Okay. There's opposition. We're going to hold that down. Please go out in the hallway and see if you can resolve some issues. Number 13, 38 And number 14, 38 and 40 Hunter Street. You the applicant, sir? Anybody else on these applications? Number 15, 11 Gloucester Street. Yes, anybody else? No. Number 16, 126A Glen Road. Applicant, yes. Anybody else? No, thank you. Number 17 and 18, 547 and 545 Clendenan Avenue. Applicant, anybody else on those applications? No, thank you. Number 19, 115 Burgess Avenue. Any opposition? No. Number 20, 45 Holmesdale Crescent. Applicant? Are you the applicant, sir? Yes. Okay, and you're in opposition? Okay, we're going to hold that down. Please go outside and see if you can resolve some issues. 21, 410 Euclid Avenue. Applicant? Right. Any opposition? Okay, we'll hold that one down too, and perhaps you can go outside and see if you can resolve some issues. Pardon? Okay. 410 Euclid Avenue, if you want to go outside and speak, see if you can resolve any issues. Okay, yeah, number 1, 25 Minto Street. Purpose of this application is to construct a 2-story ancillary building that will be used as a laneway suite at the rear of an existing 2-story semi-detached dwelling. On this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, correspondence from planning, staff reports from development engineering, permits and transportation services, urban forestry, and Toronto and Region Conservation Authority, and we have 3 form letters in support. Your name, sir?
Good morning, committee members. Mr. Chairman, my name is Graham Barrett. I'm the agent for the owners of 25 Minto Street.
Okay, so are there any questions? I don't believe we need a presentation.
No, I do have 2 additional letters of support that kind of came in at the 11th hour from 19 Minto and 38 as well.
Could you bring them up, please?
Gladly.
Okay, additional letters of support from 19 and 38 Minto. Could you give that to? All right. So we don't have any questions. Do we have a motion?
A motion to support.
All right. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second.
All in favor? You have your approval, sir. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you very much.
Number 2, 2 Glen Road. Purpose of this application is to legalize and maintain the front porch / entrance to the 3-story residential apartment building that was reconstructed without a building permit. And all we have before us are materials submitted by the applicant. Your name, sir?
Jonathan Binskowski. There actually should be something from Heritage Preservation also. Essentially what it is it's a proposal to reconstruct a front porch as well as a roof on top of it. In terms of the Heritage Preservation comments, the initial comments were that they were not in support of it, and I'm not sure if that's made it to you. They did revise their comments to indicate they did not have any objection to it, provided we made a couple of changes which were made. Basically, the changes...
All right, just a minute. Can... Madam Secretary Treasurer, we don't seem to have that heritage.
I do have it here. I can show you on the screen if you like.
Could you read it out?
Yes, no, it was addressed. Actually, it was addressed previously. There was an error.
Okay, so we haven't got any
No.
comments, so we'll just...
Perfect.
All right. So do we have any questions of the applicant? Do we have a motion?
I'd like to move to support. I think it's in keeping with the building.
All right, do we have a seconder? Seconder, all in favor? You have your approval, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, in the first motion, there were recommended conditions of approval. I just want to confirm that those conditions are not or are going to be included in your decision. You need to mention them out loud for me to be able to record them. There was urban forestry condition number 1. There was right-of-way management asking that a portion of the boulevard be restored to landscaping at the expense of the applicant, and then there was conditions regarding the laneway suite that engineering and construction services had asked to have imposed.
Yes. That's number 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not at all. I've seen all the conditions. We were fine with all of those.
All right, thank you.
Just like to remind the members to please, if you're going to be imposing conditions, that you mention them when you make your motion so that we know to record them. Otherwise, they're not included in your decision. Thanks.
Cool. Have a good day.
Okay. Number 3, 115 Boston Avenue.
Good morning, Mr.
Purpose,
Chair.
yeah, the
Members.
purpose of this application is to alter the existing 2.5-story semi-detached dwelling by constructing a rear second-story addition. We have before us material submitted by the applicant for 4 form letters in support. So there's 1 variance. Does anybody have any questions? Do we have a motion for approval or a motion to? Yeah, no conditions. You move approval. Do we have a seconder? All in favor? Have your approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Number 4, 29 Don Valley Drive. Purpose of this application is to alter the existing 2-story detached house by adding a 1-story side yard addition, a new front porch, and a rear deck. We have before us material submitted by the applicant, correspondence from urban forestry, reports from ravine and natural feature protection, in planning, and the Toronto and Region Conservation Authority, and we have 2 letters in support. Your name, sir?
Morning, Mr. Chair. Jay Smith. I'm the applicant for 29 Don Valley Drive. Agent.
Right, okay. So perhaps you could give us a short presentation?
We are adding a second-story addition on top of the existing garage. We are keeping the same setbacks, so everything is same as the existing condition. We are expanding the front porch. A lot of that is due to the fact that the hazard line, which you can see in your drawings on the site plan, is extremely close and in fact cuts through part of the house. So we are not allowed in any way to extend any deck or any exterior space to the rear. So we're doing a slightly larger front porch in order to have some exterior space.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? Or do we have a motion? But is it a condition? Is urban forestry a condition or just a comment? No condition. Okay, do we have a seconder?
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor? Have your approval, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 5, 114 Farnham Avenue. Purpose of this application is to alter the existing 3-story semi-detached dwelling by converting the attic into habitable space. We have before us material submitted by the applicant. We have correspondence in support, 3 letters of support. Your name, sir?
Yes, my name is Angus Skeen. I'm the agent for the project.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? This seems pretty straightforward. All right. We have a motion. So, perhaps you could tell us what the existing floor space index is.
Sure. Yeah, the existing floor space index is, well, in terms of percentage, I'd have to run the numbers, but we have 252.64 square meters of floor space, and the project will increase that by 16.5.
So you're over already?
Correct.
Right. Okay. So does anybody have any further questions? Do we have a motion?
I think this is relatively minor. I'd like to put forward a motion to support.
Have a seconder? All right. All in favor? Have your approval, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm not sure who the seconder was on item number 4. I have Mr. Chang moving, but I don't have a seconder. Thank you.
Number 6, 14 Gough Avenue. The purpose of this application is to construct a detached two-car garage to the rear of the 3-story detached dwelling. Access to the garage is from the rear public lane. We have before us material submitted by the applicant. We have correspondence from Transportation Services and from Engineering. We have 2 letters of support and 1 letter in opposition. Your name, sir?
Good morning. I'm Martin Rendell. I'm representing the owners today.
Okay. Could you give us a short presentation? Just let us know what's happening here.
The proposal is for variances to allow the construction of a double-car garage. The variances relate to, for one of the parking spaces, because of the angle, if you look at the site plan, the rear property line is not parallel to the front property line. It cuts at an angle. So the one required parking space that the zoning bylaw requires meets the dimensions of a required parking space. The second parking space requires a variance because on the south wall, that wall, because of the angle I described on the lot line, is less. So it's the reduction there. There's another variance for the amount of soft landscaping in the rear yard. This is not a very deep lot, and when you put the garage on the rear, and I can advise the committee that the public lane behind this, pretty well every property has garages lining the lane, so this is not an unusual circumstance. But the soft landscaping variance is required. And lastly, you'll notice in your materials, I think, the comment from Transportation requesting the setback from the rear lot line to allow for the potential lane widening, and that's been accommodated. So the only staff comment has been that of Transportation, which has been accommodated for the widening, and the 2 adjacent neighbors at number 16 and number 12 have submitted letters of support. The letter of opposition you have from the person on the other side of the lane on Carlaw complaining about the garage. That person has a garage in their rear as well off the lane. So it's an overview of the variances. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Your garage makes it harder for her to turn, I guess.
Yeah, that one seems to be pretty well right on the lot line, whereas this one has a bit of a setback.
Okay, do we have any questions or do we have a motion?
Through you, Mr. Chair, can I just confirm that the site plan then shows 37 setback?
Yeah.
That we have, you filed that with us?
Yeah, it's on the website.
Okay, because I couldn't find that measurement. Mind you, my plans are pretty small.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a seconder? Motion for approval. Do we have a seconder?
Very conditions.
With the condition is already shown on the site plan.
It's already complied.
I'll second
All
that.
right, all in favor? You have your approval, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Number 7, 94 Cumberland Street. Purpose of this application is to reduce the size of 18 parking spaces for a new mixed-use building currently under construction. We have before us material submitted by the applicant. Your name, sir?
Hi there, sir. Michael Foderick, F-O-D-E-R-I-C-K. I am a lawyer from McCarthy Tatro, and I'm representing the applicant today. The address is 94 Cumberland. This is a mixed-use building. It's an as-built condition. The building isn't quite ready for occupancy, but we're getting very close. This is zoned pursuant to a site-specific bylaw in the middle of Yorkville. So the variances relate to 18 parking spaces, and they all relate to the size of the parking spaces. These are minor variances to the size, and there is a deep...
These are as a result of construction?
Construction, and in particular pipes. Almost 201, these are related to pipes. In one case, it's in some cases, rather, it's a horizontal pipe that goes above the end of a parking space, is about to describe, and in some cases, it's a vertical pipe that is adjacent to a column. So there are 3 buckets of variances, if you will, here, 3 types of encroachments on the spot. The standard parking space requirements say you have to have 2.6 meters wide, 5.6 meters long, and 2 meters high, right? So the first bucket, 3 parking spots, are 5.3 meters long as opposed to 5.6. And if you look at the detailed report from BA Group that's been prepared and submitted with the application, the reason we say that variance is required because although we actually do provide 5.6, but at the end of the spot, right adjacent to the wall, there's a pipe, a sprinkler pipe that runs adjacent. So we could have asked for a variance that says, well, that obstruction's allowed. But instead what we did is we said, well, we're not going to count that 0.3 meters. So it's effectively a variance for to make the spot 5.3 meters in length. That's the first bucket, if you will. The second bucket, which is the vast majority of them, is for vertical pipes. And I think the easiest thing to do is to turn you to the BA report, which has pictures that illustrate this. I'm just going to show one up on the screen here. Here, hopefully it is. This is in your materials. This is from the report from BA Group. Here's the picture of some of the spots in question. Right? And so if you can see in the bottom right picture, a vertical pipe, that's the pipe we're talking about. And so the side, and there's a very important point about the bylaw I've neglected to mention. So 2.6 meters wide is the standard parking space width. But if you have a, quote, obstruction, right, so a column, a wall, that sort of thing, you're required to provide 2.9. And if you have obstructions on both sides, you must provide 3.2. So in the case of this particular spot, 2.7 is being provided. So more than the standard, right, but not quite the 2.9. So why do you need the variance? Well, it's only for that little black pipe you see there in the bottom right corner because the column itself is exempt from the obstruction variance. So, because if you're within 1 meter of the front or back of the parking spot, it doesn't count. So the intent and purpose of the bylaw is obviously, first and foremost, to create safe and comfortable parking spaces. We obviously maintain that intent and purpose, in particular because this pipe juts out, I think the estimate is 0.19 meters. So it doesn't actually interfere. It would have to be, an extra meter so it possibly interfere with a door swing or something. So it's no material impact. It's a very rigid bylaw. The bylaw contains rigid standards. So, in order to accommodate the most efficient design of a fire sprinkler system, which will be the alternative to rip it out and design something else or to eliminate this as a spot altogether, that's why we think a minor variance is appropriate. I just add that, in an as-built situation in a garage like this, this type of minor variance is very normal. I've personally, there's probably no type of variance I've done more of than this. I probably do one every couple of months. And
we see these often.
You do. And so I've So I would just say that I believe the intended purpose of the bylaw is maintained, right, which is, first of all, to maintain safe and comfortable parking spaces. It is minor. I mean, we're talking about an encroachment on the area you're not supposed to encroach on by, as I said, as little as perhaps 15 centimeters in some cases. And there's really, the purpose of the bylaw is to maintain safe door swings, and that's not impaired in almost any case here. So these are the reasons why I would ask you to support it. I'm open to asking any questions. I should just add that the alternative would be to either say no one can park here, this is not a spot, which I'm not sure what you do with the space, or to say that we're going to redesign the sprinkler system, which again, this is the most efficient design the engineers say.
Mr. Cotter, do we have any further questions?
Sir. Does it carry water? Yes, this particular pipe does. So this is a sprinkler system. You see the pipes running along the top. I mean, you will find sprinkler heads on those. I'm told that the purpose of this particular pipe is a drain for the sprinkler system. So when periodically you have to do maintenance, you have to open up the tap to let it drain out. That's what that is for, I'm advised, right? Obviously, there's different pipes referred to here. That's that particular pipe, right? But all related to the sprinkler system, to my knowledge. Yeah.
All right. Any further questions, or do we have a motion?
Just curious, when did you know? After you installed it?
Well, this was proactive. We weren't cited for a violation or something, if that's what you're asking. You'll see that BA Group is the transportation consultants we've retained. They're, if I might say so, the best in the city. And so it's a standard practice for us as we're building the building, and particularly the garage, to have them go through and to measure everything and to make sure. And so they saying we proactively identified, and that's I mean, I think that's outlined in the cover letter about how this germinated to this committee. Yeah. Yeah, and when you're dealing with a building like this, I know from my experience on whether it's a rental building and you're trying to get financing on it, or it's a condo building and you're trying to kind of minimize, whatever the case is, if you miss minor variances, it can hold up the whole closing. So we go out of our way to find problems and solve them so that that'll go smoothly when the time comes on things like that. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Do we have a motion? Would you turn your mic on?
I beg your pardon. On figure D4, yes. I noticed that there's a comment, small car parking sign recommended.
That's right.
Is that something that's going to be done?
Absolutely. We will adhere to exactly what BA's recommended. If you also read the report, you'll find that one of the pipes I mentioned, they recommended it be wrapped with like a puffy, I forget the technical term, some kind of a coating that if you did bump yourself on it, you wouldn't hurt yourself. The recommendation that we label them small car spaces, we're definitely going to do. I mean, as I said, I mean, it's debatable whether this obstruction, which is, I mean, it's depicted here. I'll just illustrate it for you because I have the page tabbed. The ones that will be labeled small car space, this is one of them, for example, right? So you see that picture there? You can barely see it, but that pipe at the very top that runs horizontally along top, that's what the obstruction we're talking about. So rather than count the area, rather than ask for height variance to say that this pipe can intrude whatever 0.2 or whatever it is into the 2 meter height, we simply didn't count the area underneath. So we'll label that a small car space. Is it truly a small car space? You be the judge. I have a big car. I would park my big car there. I don't think that materially obstructs me, but to each their own. We'll label a small car space because BA recommended that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Questions?
Yeah.
I have a motion to support.
Thank you.
Seconder?
I'll second that.
Thank you.
All in favor? Have your approval, sir.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you.
Number 8 is being held, or is deferred. We move on to number 9. 30 Mansfield Avenue. Purpose of this application is to construct a one-story detached garage to the rear of the existing two-story townhouse. Access to the detached garage will be from the rear public lane. We have material submitted by the applicant, and we have a report from engineering. Your name, sir?
Hi, good morning, committee members. My name is Jeff Long, and I'm representing the client, the applicant.
Does anybody have any questions? I don't think we need a presentation on this. All right. Do we have any questions, or do we have a motion?
I have one quick question. Are you aware of the transportation comment?
The transportation, yes, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I just noted that there was a previous refusal because there was interest in building a two-story garage.
Yeah, we were exploring the laneway housing concept, but they said no, so we just reverted back to the regular garage.
Good, thank you. Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'd like to move that we approve the
Thank you.
just as indicated for one-story garage.
Have a seconder?
I'll second that.
All right.
Thank you.
Favor? Have your approval, sir. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Number 10, 301 Indian Grove.
They're held down.
No.
Yes.
Tell?
Yeah, she was-
Oh, right. Okay. I missed it. Number 11, 204 Shaw Street. Pardon?
You're going to be held down.
Number 11, 204 Shaw Street. The purpose of this application is to alter the two-story townhouse into a duplex by reconstructing the front porch and side basement walkout, and by constructing a front basement walkout. And before us on this application, we have the material submitted by the applicant, correspondence from planning, and a report from urban forestry. Your name, sir?
Mario Silva. Good morning.
Good morning. Perhaps you can give us a brief presentation?
Sure. This is to legalize the existing duplex. We are rebuilding a lower porch with a basement entry. As a result, we have 3 minor variances, and has to do with the front steps. Regarding setbacks, we are allowed 0.6, we only have 0.38, and 0.32 on the north side. Soft landscaping, it's more or less as it is, so we are required 75%. We are at 40% instead. And the secondary suite does not allow alterations to the front. The alteration is actually to allow a door access to the basement. So this is an attached house, therefore we have no access to the back other than through the main door, so we need something at the basement level. I've done some research in the area, and there's about 7 basement walkouts, just like we are proposing. So we're not.
In what area? On the same block?
It's from Dundas all the way to Argyle Street. I can tell you it's 232 Shaw Street, 214.
But you say there's 7?
There's 7 of them, yes.
That you identified?
That I identified, correct.
Okay. Does anybody have any? We have a motion. Pardon? All right.
I'll second it. Thank you.
Ready to okay. All in favor?
Yeah.
Oh, is there urban forestry condition?
Yeah.
Number 2, right. Okay. Oh, the motion is for approval subject to the urban forestry condition number 2. Are we all in favor? You have your approval, sir.
Thank you.
399 Bathurst Street is not being held.
It's not, no, it's,
Okay.
so 13.
Now go to number 13 and 14, 38 and 40 Hunters. The purpose of these applications is to alter the existing two-story semi-detached dwelling by constructing a third-story addition. And we have 38 Hunter, we have material submitted by the applicant and 9 form letters in support. And on 40 Hunter Street, we have material submitted by the applicant and 9 form letters in support. Your name, sir?
Hi, my name is Mike De Oliveira. I'm here representing 38 and 40 Hunter Street from Replacement Design.
Okay, so your clients are doing this together?
Yes, they've hired us together and we've gone through the entire process from design to zoning and moving forward with building permits, hopefully. But yes,
That's good.
doing it all together.
Yeah. Okay, so we don't have any problem with them looking different?
The front facade are going to be very similar. The rear is slightly different between the two, but overall, they've been on board with each other throughout the whole process.
Anybody have any further questions? We have a motion for approval then?
I'd like to put forward a motion for approval for both 38 Hunter Street and 40 Hunter Street.
Are any conditions?
Not that I can see.
Any, we have a seconder. All in favor?
I'll second that.
All right. Pardon?
I'm
I
second.
don't know. I thought Aaron said he seconded first. What goes here? Okay. All right. All in favor? Have your approval, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Now we go to number 15, 11 Gloucester Street. Purpose of this application is to alter the existing 2.5-story townhouse on the reduced size lot described in delegated consent application B0079/19 TEY by reconstructing the rear 2-story addition and by constructing a front basement walkout in a rear third floor addition. And on this application, we have material submitted by the applicant. We have correspondence from Transportation, Heritage Preservation Services, and Toronto Transit Commission. Staff reports from Engineering and Urban Forestry. Your name, sir?
Hi, my name is, good morning. My name is Ryan Miller with the applicant, Crescent Developments, an agent of the owner.
Okay, so we're just talking about 0 on-site parking. Does
Correct.
anybody have any questions, or do we have a motion? Right, seconder? Okay, all in favor?
I
Have
think
your
there's some
approval, sir.
conditions.
Pardon? Is there a condition?
TTC
15, there's a
15,
urban
forestry.
condition.
and TTC, think,
PTC is advisory.
It's an advisory.
okay.
Yeah, urban forestry, 1.
Yeah, we're aware of both conditions, absolutely happy with them.
Okay. So you have your approval, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Aaron moved and sit here second. Number 16, 126A Glen Road. And the purpose of this application is to construct a second-story addition over the existing rear one-story detached garage. The addition will be used as storage space.
Good morning, committee members.
And before us, we have Material submitted by the applicant, correspondence from Heritage Preservation Services, and a report from Urban Forestry, 11 form letters in support, and 1 letter in opposition. Right, your name, sir?
That's Blake Acton. I'm the owner of 126A Glen Road.
Okay. So this, your floor space index is,
So it'll virtually be the same input or imprint of the existing garage. Nothing will change there.
except that it's
And it's strictly
93 or something square.
93, yeah.
You're permitted 40 square meters.
It's for storage.
Okay. Would you be amenable to no plumbing?
Absolutely. No, I just, actually brought my son down, considering the TDDSP is closed. So I said, I want you to learn about the process. And it's strictly for his hockey equipment and bicycles and stuff. So there's no other things.
Any questions?
And as you know, I've got the I think 11 immediate neighbors that have agreed with it. The one that didn't that's a bit of a personality conflict is what happened there.
So this will be accessed by an interior pull-down ladder?
That's right. Exactly. Yeah.
So it's more like longer-term summer storage versus winter?
Patio furniture for the winter and stuff like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And my father passed away, and my mother's in a nursing home, so storage for their things as well. I did take. There's some pictures of other homes in the area that have something very similar. I made some copies. I don't know if you want to see them or.
Not all of them, but
Okay.
a few of them up on the
Sure.
screen. Perhaps the closest ones to your
Yeah.
house. You know where that is?
That's on Rock.
Okay.
Chairman, I'd like to move approval with the proviso that there be no plumbing installed.
100%.
Intention of potentially turning it into a residential suite.
Absolutely.
And there's an urban forestry, I think, condition, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yeah, and the condition comes from urban forestry.
Yeah, absolutely.
What number is that?
Number 2. Urban forestry 2.
2 conditions. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second that. Thank you.
All in favor? Have your approval, sir. Thank you.
Okay. What happens next? What do I do?
Good.
What's that? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Numbers 17 and 18, 547 Glendennan Avenue and 545 Glendennan Avenue. And the purpose of these application is to alter the existing 2.5-story townhouse by converting the attic into habitable space and by constructing a rear 3rd-story addition with a rear 3rd-story deck. And we have material submitted by the applicant. We have a report from community planning, and we have 2 form letters in support. For 547, and we have the material submitted by the applicant and the report from planning. For 545, no letters in support. Your name, please.
Julia Burke, agent for the owner. Would you like, I have a presentation if you'd like.
Could you, well...
Do you want me to go through it? I can.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
It is. Most of our square footage is due to the third floor. The attic space is considered habitable. We've added 36 square feet to each of these houses. It looks like a big number, but it is only slightly over what's existing.
Yeah. Okay. Any further questions, or do we have?
I was just going to ask, are you aware of the condition that planning department has
No.
indicated? That's for number 17, 547 Clendenan. Condition essentially states the altered dwelling shall be constructed substantially in accordance with the plans.
Oh, fine.
Dated, stamped, received by the Committee of Adjustment on August 28th, 2019.
That's fine. Happy with that. I think it's only on one of them.
It's actually on 18 as well.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
Okay. And your motion applies to both properties? Yeah. All right. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second the motion.
All right. All in favor? Have your approval. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 19, 115 Burgess Avenue. Purpose of this application is to legalize and maintain the rear deck that was reconstructed without proper authorization. And we have before us material submitted by the applicant, correspondence from planning, 6 form letters in support and opposition from 117. Your name?
Good morning. My name is Kathy Yurkovich, and I'm at 115 Burgess Avenue, the owner.
Okay. So you're a little higher above grade and you project a little more.
That's correct.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
I'd like to put forward a motion to approve. I think this deck is consistent with other constructions throughout the area, through that stretch of the alley. Thank you.
All in favor? You have your approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, numbers 20 and 21 are being held.
Can we take a 5-minute?
We're going to take a 5-minute break, and we're going to start at number 10, 301 Indian Grove. 5 minutes. Right, Kathleen? Ready? Number 10, 301 Indian Grove. The purpose of this application is to reconstruct a new detached garage, a new detached garage to the rear of the existing two-story detached dwelling and in the southeast corner of the lot. We have material submitted by the applicant and one letter in support. Name, sir?
Yes, good morning. My name is Thomas Marzato. I'm the agent for the owner.
Just a minute. Where is the opposition? Would you come forward, please, and sit in the front row here? Okay, perhaps you could give us a brief presentation.
Sure. Okay, the project has a little bit of a history. The original proposal actually included a dwelling unit on top of the proposed garage, and we dropped that proposal, and we submitted a revised proposal for detached garage of 62 square meters. We had comments from the planning department, direct phone call, basically asked us if we could reduce it to 50 square meters because that's a figure that's been...
Sir, could you just deal with the...
Yes, that's been... Okay, so basically I get three variances. The first one is the height. Basically, we're going to be about 9 inches higher than what allowed. Now, 9 inches at the peak, which is in the middle of the roof. It's a pitched roof. Number two is the area. 40 square meters are allowed. We have 50 square meters. And the third is the landscape for the soft landscaping for the rear. Minimum is 50%, and we have 35%.
So, sir, the purpose says to reconstruct a new detached garage. Was there an existing garage?
Yes, on the north side, yes, similar size.
Okay, so this is, I assume, larger than the existing?
Slightly larger, yeah.
All right. So that none of these conditions were existing. These are all differences.
Yeah. The ways we're changing the rear of the lot, we're switching the location of the garage. And one thing I might ask, the reason we're moving the garage to the south side is to reduce the driveway from the street. Because right now, the owner has to do is sort of come down the lot, turn and swing into the garage. Now, we're basically in line with the access from the road.
Okay.
That's really the reason.
All right. Thank you, sir. Let's hear from your neighbor, and we'll...
Hi, good morning, committee members. I'm the affected neighbor, directly affected by this project. And I'm here.
Name and your address?
My name is Nedialka Terzieva from 108 Indian Road, Crescent.
What's your address?
108 Indian Road, Crescent, directly above this house, this property. I can show you like how it looks like. On pictures. Property. So, as you can see, the lot below our lot, which is the current proposal here, is double of the size of my lot. There are two houses above their lot covering pretty much this area. And currently the garage is below our double garage with the neighbor. Currently the garage is below our garage, so it doesn't affect anybody. But the proposal is the garage to be just below our garden, which is making everything different. And the variance is, like I can show you here another picture. How it looks like. You see the just below the garden, There are trees here. Here is the garage, our garage. So again, the garden. And here are our garages. So below these garages is the existing garage. The pictures are a little bit dark, but maybe I can give it to you. And currently we have this flora, all of these big trees are like some of them starting from the load below, they are going to die. As soon as these trees cut on half, these trees are going to die.
Why do you say that?
Because I consulted herbalists. And
What?
The herbalist knows if you cut half of the tree to make all of this happen, the rest is dying. And our garden is a big part of our life. I have a severely autistic child, and this garden is used for therapeutical purpose and for organic eating, to be able to afford for him to eat the best food possible. Here are some of our crops from last year, you can see. And maybe I give you the pictures.
Oh, Madam, perhaps you could come to the podium. I want to ask you some questions because I can't, you're just throwing the, please go to the podium.
So I just want to show the pictures to see how it looks like. We are on the street over. There is a retaining wall which is pretty high, and first concern is that the building that is proposed to be built there, it's a garage, and they're proposing 50 square meters compared to the low 40 square meters. 50 square meters is a big concern for us. This is going to be a huge building, 538 square feet, which is like bigger than some of the downtown condos, which are 450 square meters. This is a big concern. It's not a minor variance. It's becoming like a huge building there.
How does it impact you?
The impact?
Yes.
The impact is that I'm questioning why we need such a big building for a garage.
Will you please tell us the impact on your property?
On my property, this building is going to be moved exactly where our garden is. So it's not going to be under the garage like it's currently and within the low limits. It's going to be above and making shadow and stopping the air and stopping the sun. And basically the garden is going to be completely not useful anymore.
So does it make any difference if it's 40 meters or if it's 50 meters? Because they could build, as of right, a 40-meter garage.
Yes, 50 meters, 50 square meters is becoming a very huge building, and opening the doors for more big garages in the backyards of the whole neighborhood. And this is not going to improve the neighborhood in any way.
No, I'm just asking if there's a difference of the impact on your property because it's 50 meters as opposed to 40 meters.
Yes, because on this lot we are going to have two huge buildings already, and the soft landscaping coverage is going to be reduced, and this becomes like a really big difference, not in alignment of the environment and the green spaces that we are
it's going to affect your
working on. My green space is going to be affected as well. And the trees are going to be cut, and I can show you on the pictures to see how many trees are there.
Your time.
Now, for the height of the building.
Madam, you had 5 minutes. You've had your 5 minutes. So I just want to summarize so that we're clear as to what your problem is. That the 50 meters as opposed to 40 meters is going to have a greater impact on your garden and the plants that you have and the use of your backyard?
And the neighborhood as well.
How does it impact the neighborhood?
Because these kind of garages are going to grow more, and there is like with this lineway houses and rental properties coming up, we don't know what will happen in the future. Why do we need such big garages? Why the existing or a little bigger within the low limits wouldn't be enough?
Okay. Madam?
Yes.
Thank you very much. We're now going to hear from the applicant.
Mr. Chair, do you know what the address was?
Can I give you my writing there or not?
Yes, please hand it in.
Sorry.
Madam, could I just ask you what your address was?
108 in General Crescent.
This is for
Right behind. Should directly be. Thank you.
Right behind Indian Grove Crescent.
Oh, okay.
All right, Mr. Marzato, please come forward. And so can you address the issue of the size of the garage, 50 meters as opposed to 40 square meters, and how that would have a greater effect on your neighbor's property than the 40 square meters, which you're entitled to?
Okay, my client desires to have a two-car parking spot in the garage, and basically that's the area that he needs. Also, the 50 square meter figure actually came from the planning department. They would support that area because it's an area that's basically is the upper limit of what's been approved in the neighborhood. So we followed their advice. Originally, we asked for 62 square meters, we reduced it. In terms of impact to our neighbor at the back, you can take a look at the side elevation of the garage. Our property is on the right side, and the property with the garden is on the left side. You can see there's a retaining wall, which is about 5 feet high. So we're actually, our building, the building actually is 4 feet above the neighbor's garden. So the impact of sun or visually is very minimum.
What about the trees that she alleges are going to be killed?
We've hired an arborist. Of course, we wouldn't go ahead with the proposal if there was a problem, and they say that they can work with building a garage with foundations that won't affect the root structure. Probably would do it on piles.
So would it make a difference to the root structure of the trees if you built 40 square meters?
No, not really, because I don't think so. It'd be minimum.
Right. Okay.
But it's working with piles. I've done in my own practice, I've done that.
Madam, could you please sit down and you're interrupting Mr. Marzato.
I've done similar proposal like this where we had trees near garage. Urban forestry is very likely to approve if we have a foundation with piles rather than a continuous foundation wall. So we're following their advice.
You're on the west side of
Right.
even if there's still 60 or 20% more.
Yeah, it's very minimal because we're 5 feet lower. Our lot is 5 feet lower than the neighbor. So the impact is negligible.
Right. Does anybody else have any questions? Would you please sit down? Madam, you've had your opportunity. It's Mr. Marzato's opportunity to speak, and thank you. Does anybody have any further questions? Do we have a motion?
I'd like to move approval of the application as presented. There are no conditions that are apparent. I don't believe this forestry has given us any conditions. So I'd like to propose...
Forestry, number 2.
Is it number 2?
What my note is. Is that correct?
No, there are no conditions that I've seen for this property.
All right, I've got it on the, oh, I know. I put it on the wrong property. I didn't cross it out.
I'd like to second the motion.
All in favor?
Hey, thank you.
Sir, thank you. Next is number 12, 399 Bathurst Street. Purpose of this application is to alter the existing east wing of the hospital. Just a minute, where is the opposition? Would you come forward and sit in the front row here? Purpose of this application is to alter the existing east wing of the hospital building by constructing a new roof and above the mechanical penthouse. And we have before us in this application material submitted by the applicant, a report from Urban Forestry, correspondence of concern from 60 Bellevue Avenue in opposition from Friends of Kensington Market. And your name, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Lyons, Lyons, initial C for Catherine. I've given my card to the clerk. I am the solicitor for Toronto Western Hospital, the applicant.
Thank you. So this is one variance. Perhaps you can just explain the variance.
Yes, sir. I have brought some diagrams that were included in the material provided to the committee, but if I may put them up. So Toronto Western Hospital, as you can see, is a campus. The building where the variance is being sought is outlined in a square there. The hospital has 272 beds, and it's called an academic science center, which basically means it's a teaching hospital. It's affiliated with University of Toronto. It's been part of the Kensington neighborhood for over 100 years. The variance is to increase the height of the mechanical penthouse on one of the buildings. So this is a site plan, and the area outlined in yellow, which is not to scale, is just to identify the general area of the addition to the mechanical penthouse. The building in the top left-hand corner is a parking structure, and immediately across the road from this this part of the hospital is a 6-story residential building.
Is that associated with the hospital?
It is not, sir. It's a social housing project, and part of Toronto Western Hospital's work is in community health care, and so certainly they serve the needs of the people in that building and have a relationship, but it's not a residence and it's not associated with the hospital.
So could you just tell us the height difference? Because as I understand it, you're asking for a variance with respect to height.
Correct. The variance is, Planning and Buildings worded the variance notice, and we did discuss it with them. The actual variance, in terms of what you would see when you were there, is that the building that is subject to the variance was constructed following 2002, following an approval of the Committee of Adjustment that allowed a height of that building of 42.8 meters, excluding a penthouse, and 45.5, including the penthouse. So it's a variance of allowing 5.91 to the height of that building, including the penthouse, and it's an additional 8.61 excluding the penthouse. I have a elevation to give you an idea of how it's going to be stacked on top.
Yeah, I think we've seen the material, unless, does anyone need to see these additional drawings?
Thank you, sir. The variance is worded that way because the bylaw notice doesn't address the variance to the bylaw as already varied, and so it looks like it's a 50-meter variance. It is not. This mechanical penthouse is to replace some aging infrastructure. It will house backup or standby generators. The building code references a CSA standard for backup electricity for hospitals and for critical areas of hospitals. So there's a definition of what critical areas are, and that would include operating rooms and so on, not hallways, not cafeterias.
Are you essentially upgrading your infrastructure?
Yes, that's exactly what is being done. There needs to be 100% redundancy, so if the capacity to serve those critical areas in the event of electricity disruption requires one generation set, you actually need two, and so there'll be two. There is a blank spot for further future infrastructure. This work is going to require reinforcement of the roof and construction of the penthouse to shield it. The hospital has no plans today for any expansion, and I have been working on this site for about 20 years, and I can tell you that there really isn't, if there were to be any kind of expansion, it would definitely require a zoning process. I think the neighbors, having spoken to them, are concerned that this blank 1/3 area is because there's a secret expansion plan, and I can assure you there is not.
Ms. Lyons?
Yes, sir.
Subject to, your time is up, and subject to any questions, do you have any? All right, so perhaps we could hear from the neighbors now?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Do you have a spokesperson? So, all right. Go ahead.
My name is Sylvia Lassam, and I live at 80 Bellevue Avenue, around the corner from the Toronto Western Hospital. I'm a 14-year resident of the market, and it's become evident during my time living in my home that the Toronto Western Hospital is a very bad neighbor. I'm going to give you a little bit of history about our...
We don't want to know about any grievances you've had in the past. We're addressing this application. They're changing the infrastructure, and they're raising the height somewhat. How is that going to impact you? That's what we're interested in.
Well, I guess the answer is that we don't know how it will impact us. And the last time that they did a building project, which was the Kimball Center, which opened in 2013, none of us objected to that project, thinking that, yes, it's a hospital, it's a teaching hospital, it's a good thing, it's not some rapacious corporate entity that's trying to cause problems. We love our hospital, and none of us objected, and we have paid dearly for that. So we have very serious concerns with noise, which is the result of the Kimball Center. They have air accelerators that change the air numerous times without any...
We don't have any jurisdiction over those issues. So we're only interested in this application, this variance, the...
Fair enough. So what I would like to say then very briefly is that we have concerns about the fact that there has been no community consultation on this. Given the past history that we have with them, there's very little trust in their playing good neighbors, and that we are not asking for you to necessarily deny this application, but we're asking for you to postpone the decision so that there can be further community consultation.
Right.
Thank you.
Next.
Morning. My name is Mitch Kirsch, Kirsch. I've lived on Bellevue Avenue for over 25 years, just a stone's throw east of the hospital and its proposed addition to its infrastructure. I don't believe that I or any of my neighbors would deny that this hospital is a wonderful healthcare institution. It provides a great service for the city and the province. But living right next to it is like living next to a small city, very dense, that never sleeps. The hospital is uniquely situated
in the core of our intensifying city, and this is part of what makes it such a valuable institution. It's also chock-a-block up against a residential neighborhood, and it's a significant part of Kensington Market. Its thousands of visitors are part of the ecology of the market and of our neighborhood. It's a presence in our bedrooms and living rooms and gardens. Because of all this, the hospital has the unique responsibility to carefully consider, inform, and consult with its neighbors and its community whenever it contemplates expanding its physical plant. In the present instance, they have been woefully deficient in doing so. My neighbors and I have many legitimate questions and concerns about this exact project. Yet the hospital has given us no appropriate public forum to raise these. This hearing today is our only opportunity, and many of our questions and concerns are not part of this hearing's purview. We understand that.
Did you have a discussion outside with?
We did, and we were told that the schedule of this maintenance operation is much too important to have consulted with their neighbors. Somehow, this project, which I can personally say that the existing generating equipment has been operating for many, many years. Thursday mornings between 4 and 6 a.m., they test it for an hour. It wakes you up. If it doesn't wake you up, then you're lucky. You're a very deep sleeper. We have questions about this new facility, and they're valid questions, and we need a forum to discuss them. The hospital has given us no forum to do so. I'd ask the committee to postpone a decision until such time as the hospital can demonstrate that they've engaged with their community. And I'd be surprised if you would send the message today that they don't need to consult with their community when they have additions to their infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is David Perlman, P-E-R-L-M-A-N, 60 Bellevue. I sent in an advance summary of my concerns, so I won't rehash it. But thank you for this opportunity to just clarify some of them. My overall point is not to approve or oppose, but to request a deferral because simply we do not have enough information in the application.
Your concerns are the same?
No, my concerns are...
Your concern is lack of consultation, is that correct?
My concern is to highlight for the committee, perhaps if you wish to hear, some of the details as to the questions we have not had the opportunity to answer, so that it isn't just a blanket grumble about not being consulted with, but some of the specific things in their application for which no answers are available.
All right, please tell us.
Okay, so the first question is as to why this shell of this magnitude, the extent of the rebuild is necessary for the stated purposes. There is a very troubling paragraph in their own covering letter on page 2. The first complete paragraph on that page. The proposed mechanical penthouse addition has also been designed to accommodate a third future generator to support the growing needs of the site and its surrounding neighborhoods. Now, there is a history which they acknowledge themselves going way back of the hospital not encroaching further on the neighborhood as part of an agreement for the neighborhood not to oppose the hospital with what they do on their own site. So, third generator to support the growing needs of the site and its surrounding neighborhood raises all kinds of troubling questions about what their overall plan is.
We will ask Ms. Lyons if she could address that issue.
Okay, thank you. The paragraph above that speaks to age and condition of existing equipment relating to the existing power plant. It speaks only to the emergency generators, but the way that paragraph is worded, UHN is planning for a full system replacement to avoid potential system failures. We don't know whether that's just in regard to emergency generators or whether in fact they are contemplating replacement of the existing power plant building. That's the second one. The third and most troubling for me is in the bottom of page 3, the final paragraph, where finally the requested variance can be considered minor in nature. It relates to something that you said yourself, sir, about variances being considered in this forum only in relation to height. But I respectfully submit that they have to be considered also in relation to impact of the variance, and when it comes to degradation of the acoustic environment of the neighborhood, I am very, very troubled by the fact that in that final paragraph they talk about design review exercise involving numerical noise modeling and recommendations for noise mitigation, but we are not given any indication as to what equipment this is being modeled or anything like that. So just to cut to the chase, my point is that if this is on a critical path, they've known for a very long time where they were in the process. They have chosen to make their public consultation in a forum designed for opposition, not for consultation. They have not revealed the uses that this mechanical penthouse will be put towards, other than the push-button one of the generators. So that's it.
Your time is up, sir. Yep. Thank you.
Unless you have questions.
You're on behalf of who? All right, come forward. Were you here to speak to Ms. Lyon outside?
No.
All right.
I apologize. I only just arrived.
All right.
My name is Sue Alexanian. I'm the chair of KMAC, which is the oldest residents and business association in Kensington Market. I also happen to live at 2 Bellevue. I see the hospital half a block away from my house. I received no notice as a resident and no notice from the community group, simply because it was only filed through the East York rather than the downtown Committee of Adjustments that we peruse regularly to find out anything going on in our neighborhood. So I only found out about this at the 11th hour, but from disgruntled neighbors worried about the impact.
You didn't receive a notice
I did not.
Okay, go ahead.
I won't repeat anything that's been said, but I want to point out that the variance 8.61 of an allowable height is not minor in nature, and I wonder if we can't explore putting it elsewhere on the property. I suspect there's other places where it could be, especially if it were on the east side where it's not immediately residential. On the other side, right across the street is residential on the east side, but on the west. Sorry?
Isn't there already infrastructure there? They're just replacing it, upgrading it?
No, it's at ground level, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
I also find it problematic that the rules that they're required to abide by are industrial zoning rules. And because they abut on 3 sides with residents, I feel that it's important to consider the residents in question. And therefore, I also respectfully request a deferral so that we could have a community consultation on this and find a solution that can work for everyone. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Lyon?
A couple of things just about consultation. Toronto Western and the Kensington residents have had a long relationship, and it's a bit like a family relationship. Sometimes you want to sit next to them at Thanksgiving, and sometimes you don't. But all in all, it has been a family experience over 100 years. I thank the residents for coming today. There is a regular outreach group, a community group representative of Kensington that meets with the hospital to discuss ongoing issues. One issue, for example, was that when ambulances pull in, they leave their flashing lights on. Is that necessary? Could that be changed? This is a regular process that they have, and that's often where issues are raised. At the regular meeting of that group, this proposal was raised, and I'm going to say that would be in potentially October. And that group said, well, that's really not what we focus on. We're interested in your community health initiatives. Because the function of the committee has ebbed and flowed over the years. When the Kremble Tower was under construction and subject to its applications to the city, that committee was very focused on that. So on the basis of the advice of that committee, Toronto Western pulled out its old list from the Kremble Tower, which was constructed in 2013, and did an email to the community advising them of this proposal. And this is what that notice looks like. I've just put it up. That was sent out by email to a list that we had of community members outside the membership of this outreach committee. And that was sent out on November 22nd. Obviously, the statutory notice has been addressed. And I would say that the consultation has been good. I think we can always do a better job, but to say I don't know what the impacts are is challenging for us. I heard the acoustic environment. This is equipment that will be modernized and moved to the rooftop. It will be shielded by a mechanical penthouse structure. It is turned on only in the event of an electrical power failure other than testing. And the equipment today is being tested. So we don't anticipate new noise impacts in the community. And I appreciate that may be the first time that the residents have heard that. But nonetheless, we did do our best to speak to the outreach committee that we already have in place, to email the list that we had from the Kremble Zoning and Construction Committee, and then the statutory notice. Of course, the sign was also posted on the site. So I don't know if there was anything else specifically in the comments raised that you would like me to address, sir.
Well, one issue that was just raised was the location.
Yes, infrastructure planning in a hospital is extremely complex, and there's two reasons that it's complicated. One is the funding is so challenging, and the other is that the infrastructure hub of the hospital is right there. There is a you can almost see there's a chimney. That's where all of our mechanicals have been historically. And what's complicated is that building is built for the purpose of infrastructure. And vibration, which is the other thing that's complicated about hospital infrastructure, vibration's a big deal. And some of the equipment is extremely sensitive and it shouldn't be subject to vibration. And hospitals like to consolidate their infrastructure when they can. And for that building with the chimney stack on it has been there for decades, and that has traditionally housed the infrastructure.
Anybody have any?
I do have.
Yes, sir.
Interest. Also doing a project for Scarborough Health Network, and we're doing something similar. So I just want to ask you some quick question. How often is this power generator is going to be tested? every week, every month, every year?
I should have mentioned I brought the engineers and the architects with me. It's mandated by,
USA standard?
yes, and it has to be for a hospital, can only be done when it's not a peak time, when the operating room isn't full of people, and that's why it's done at this unfortunate time. But I'm going to say it's weekly, but if you would give me one moment, I'll ask the engineer. It's once a week, sir. Yeah.
Okay. And the other question I want to ask you is, usually it's done through site plan, now it's not a site plan, but have you retained like a sound or acoustic engineer to estimate the derby that's coming out to the surroundings?
Estimate the noise, did you say?
Yeah, the noise of the testing.
Yes, sir. We have retained RWDI, and when the engineering firm and RWI sub examined possible locations for this infrastructure, the RWDI was engaged to look at which one would have the most impact and which one, because it's heavy infrastructure, which building it could be placed on, and RWDI has looked at it. It's governed by the Environmental Protection Act, and it will need a permit.
Okay. Yeah, because I understand that the enclosure has to be enclosed by louvers for the air ventilation, so there's no way you can soundproof it. The only way to soundproof it is to put sound barrier outside of it, and that's the only way to do it, but you only do that in... That's another question I'm wondering, because, like I said, if it's a site plan, they definitely will need you to put up the sound barrier because they're right next to the residential neighborhood. But because of the nature of this application is under minor, right? So that's why we're here talking about that. So I guess I think the last question is, have you ever tried any effort to speak to the neighbor or justify to the neighbor that there is a plan to mitigate the noise? Because there's a point from the opposition party that we cannot ignore, is the fact that the number of the increasement of the height is minor, but the implication is the sound, the noise, right, which they're very concerned about. I have no question about the extension of the future expansion, because every hospital designed it that way. I don't think there's any secret plan about it. This is the way how it goes. But I do have, I just want to help you guys to ask more questions about what is your plan of mitigating noise, and if you can help me to explain.
Thank you, sir, for that opportunity. Whether or not there would be a site plan application, the acoustical requirements are governed by the Environmental Protection Act and MPC 300, which establishes acoustical standards. Those acoustical standards vary based on the location of a sensitive receptor, and so the fact that the neighbors are there, that would be the closest sensitive receptor, and we have to be sure that the standards of MPC 300 are met at that location, and the noise mitigation will be designed to achieve that standard, and what used to be called environmental compliance approval under the Environmental Protection Act will be required, and a noise study to demonstrate that the standards are met will have to be included in that. So that's how it'll be addressed.
The relocation of this equipment from the ground level affect the noise level?
It may affect the noise. It may affect well, it clearly affects the location of the noise propagation, but wherever that equipment is located on the campus, it must meet the standards of MPC 300.
Any further?
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the, I think it's page 3 that this gentleman made reference to.
Is this of our letter, sir?
It's from Goodman's?
Yes.
And in the last paragraph, just above the summary paragraph, last sentence basically talks about noise mitigation. And it says basically, furthermore, design team is currently working to model all noise sources associated with the facility and to provide a noise mitigation plan toward achieving compliance with noise guidelines. Is there some reason why that plan has not yet been produced so that your opponents could at least look at it and have a better understanding of what the standards would be that you're trying to meet?
A couple of things. The noise mitigation plan relates to the entire campus because under NPC 300 it is treated as one stationary source. So you must take into account every noise source on the campus. You're never allowed to just test one and say it meets and another one and say it meets, because together it could cause an exceedance. And so in respect of this particular piece of infrastructure, there's no doubt that the noise can be mitigated. Backup generator sets and HVAC equipment is very, very common on buildings, and lots of buildings. The First Canadian Place has an environmental compliance approval for just this equipment. What this speaks to is that the neighbors have traditionally had concerns with the Kremble Research Tower. It has HVAC systems that support all the labs, and for scientific reasons, they actually need to separately supply air and heating and ventilation to different parts so there won't be cross-contamination during experiments. And it took us, and we were working with the community, almost 2 years to get that building properly commissioned. And there were admittedly all kinds of issues, and we were very thankful of the community's patience. We spent time in the backyard measuring and up there measuring and so on. So it was to assure the community in a not very articulate way, and I apologize, that this would be taken into consideration with the entire campus and that we wouldn't be looking at it just in isolation. It's an ongoing process, and we keep in touch with the ministry. There's a complaint process that we must observe. It's part of our community relations.
Whatever we approve or don't approve today doesn't affect the noise, because you still have a regulatory body that's going to approve or disapprove of what you're doing.
That's correct.
In terms of noise.
That's correct, sir.
All right. So, do we have any further questions, or do we have a motion?
Let me just make one comment.
Of course.
Before it irritates me if I don't say it. The example you used of the First Canadian Place.
Yes.
With all respect, First Canadian Place isn't surrounded by residential neighborhoods, so it's a very different scenario.
Yes.
They do have very serious concerns. It might have helped the hospital's case if some of this work had been done prior to when the consultation had taken place. I agree that at some point you have to meet the compliance of the MECP. That will have to happen, and that's not why we're here. But I think it would have helped your case and the relationship between the hospital and the community had some of this been done prior to.
Thank you for that advice, sir. We do value the relationship with the community, and I think that we assumed that the outreach committee was the right place to go to. And I wish that the hospital, I appreciate the kind words from the residents on the importance of the hospital, but I agree with them. It is like being next to a little city, and we do try and work with the neighbors, and I take your advice to heart, and I will be sure to advise the hospital of that.
No, I'm sorry, sir. We don't have... No, I'm sorry, sir. All right. We have any further questions, or we have a motion? Go ahead.
So, because the nature of this variance is really a minor variance, I understand that there is some communication issues between you and I. I trust the system that eventually the noise problem will be resolved. So, I guess I would confer with my colleague here that I would make a motion to approve it, but I strongly urge you to speak to your neighbor after that and set up more meetings, because they still have the right to appeal, and it will be dragging the hospital process. And I understand that with the climate change and everything, there's a protocol that all hospitals in Ontario will have to upgrade their power system, and according to the CSA. So just to let you know, it's not like the hospital has too much money to spend and some noise, right? I work with objection too, but the question is, they have the need of doing it, but I guess the question is, how do they do it, and how can they make everyone's less impact by the noise? So I strongly urge you to speak to them to avoid appeal and delay for the sake of the hospital. But for now, I will have to make a motion to approve it.
But you understand that they still have to go through a regulatory process with respect to the noise impact. So it's not over. You may or may not be able to make submissions to the regulatory body. I don't know. But you can certainly talk to the hospital. Because this is not over if we approve this thing.
It's just that the nature of that variance of the height is,
do we have a seconder?
I'll second the motion.
All right, all in favor? Have your approval. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I would just note that there's a forestry condition which we consent to.
Forestry condition.
It's a standard one that if there's any trees impact.
Yes, sorry. Motion to approve of condition number 1 from forestry.
Okay, number 20, 45 Holmesdale Crescent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. The purpose of this application is to legalize and alter the existing rear second-story deck by repositioning the deck railings. The existing deck platform will not be altered.
Good morning. My name is Luis Cali.
Would you hang on 1 minute?
Sure, no problem.
And we have before us on this application material submitted by the applicant, a report from planning, 3 form letters in support, and 2 letters, I believe, in opposition. Your name, sir?
Yes, good morning. My name is Luis Cali. Last name Cali, C-A-L-L-E. I'm here representing 45 Holmesdale, Mr. Jason Condoy and his wife. Well, the proposal is reducing. We already went to committee adjustment before, and we applied for 19 meters platform deck, which was denied. Now we changed it to 12 meters. And also the issue before was that I was very close to the neighbor, which with the new proposal, we move around 6 feet away from the neighbor. And also I got a phone call from the city which proposed us to do the side to the neighbor 6 feet high fence, so privacy fence. So the application says that the altered deck will be 11.1 meters square. Yes,
not
yes.
12.
Sorry, well.
Okay, all right. So we understand. Perhaps we could hear from your neighbors now, and we'll give you a chance to rebut.
Sure, no problem.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, so do you have a spokesperson?
Well, I'm points. I reside in the home, and my sister.
Okay.
May she help me with?
Yes.
My name is Alita Militic, M-I-L-E-T-I-C. I have lived at that address since 1965. It is our family home.
You live at 43 Holmes?
43 Holmesdale Crescent.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm nervous. One moment. I opposed to the size of the deck simply because it's, it was 19. Now they're proposing 11, which is still 3 times the size. And from the side lot line, in the drawings, it doesn't show that it's 6 feet from the actual edge of the existing deck. The existing deck is, I think, 0.5 meters from the lot line. From what my understanding is, that deck is still going to remain in place. However, he is proposing to move the rail in, and on the actual drawing, it doesn't show any measurements, which I find confusing. He has labeled that area where the deck is, the existing deck is, and for it to remain, he's labeled at roof. And in one of the drawings, I wanted to show you that underneath there is an extension, and there is no roof needed for a double roof to be there. Another point, I don't believe the variance is minor simply because it is so large. And because it will, in the drawings it shows that it is, again, I don't know the measurement of the actual length that is showing, but it shows that it's probably going to be just a foot short of what the existing measurement is. And so in that case, the person on the deck and the people on the deck can still look into my home. My home is quite close and on par in terms of length and to that home. Number 47 has an asphalt driveway in between that home, and that home is actually longer in length, and it is there's a full wall. So there is no overlook in that case for number 47. Number 47 has agreed agreed to a petition that Mr. Calais had asked, I guess, for them for agreement. So they have agreed, but number 50 and 52 have also signed an agreement, and they live across the street. And being across the street really doesn't have any impact of this large deck for them.
Are you concerned about overlook?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So
it is looming.
Even moving the fence or the railing back 6 feet is not going to help you?
Well, that's not something that has been even indicated 6 feet. There aren't any measurements there. And I don't believe that there is 6 feet from there to the actual door. To the actual door that is existing. There's a lot of things on that drawing that are not actually that are incorrect. For example, in this photograph, it shows that there's that you can actually see there is no window. In the drawings, they have put in a window. The door on the second level is a smaller door. There's actually an indication showing that there's a proposal to change the door and make it larger. So if that door is larger, then how can he be 6 feet from the side? Like there's a lot of things here that actually aren't being addressed in terms of, like, I couldn't find any measurements. I couldn't make any sense of what actually of any of these measurements were.
So could you wrap up now? I understand what you're saying, but do you have any further points, because your time's almost up?
Okay, I just wanted to indicate that because of the size and the actual overlook and the wall, the separation, it's going to be too obstructive and it won't offer any light into my home. I just think the deck is too large for the amount of people that it actually has, and also for safety, which is something that T-Lab had addressed. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Loretta Piatelli. I was 6 years old. My name is Piatelli, Piattelli.
Your address?
Pardon me?
Your address?
Or no?
My address is 5 Lauder Avenue.
Okay.
I moved into that home when I was 7 years old, and it is our family home, and it's our neighborhood. I don't live far from there. It's still about a 10-minute, 15-minute walk to my sister's home, my home, and I just wanted to bring up that it's quite disturbing that the allowance is supposed to...
Are you a co-owner of
Yes, I am.
43?
Yes.
Okay.
The home was, I guess we inherited from our parents who passed away a few years ago from cancer. So my sister currently lives in that home. She is visually impaired, and this is her comfort area. She definitely needs light to be able to see. She has partial vision when it comes to light and dark. If it's dark, she doesn't see anything in the home. So the blockage of anything that's built on there further up higher will block light into her bedroom. Makes her very uncomfortable to know that there are people on that deck when there's a party, and that currently is a large deck, easily could be a size of a room. Makes her uncomfortable to know that people are on that deck as of having a barbecue, having a party, and her bedroom is right next door, and they could look into it. As she could look, as you can see from the pictures, you can look into that deck easily. They have a large gazebo on that deck, so it's not really a 4 meter or a 4 square meter deck that it should be. It was built without any approval in the first place, and this is the first time that we've gone to Committee of Adjustments. Currently, I also want to make note that there was a report that was done from the last appeal that was done in September, and it stated that the T-Lab, when they had arrived on the site, they had seen that the structure found that the soil-bearing pressure in the middle of the sonotube was in excess of 1,570 PSF permitted by the OPC, and they suggested that they needed to excavate the footings locations to widen it to a minimum of 2 square by 1 deep to make sure that it's safe. That was never done since this report was put through.
That the support is not sufficient?
So I think he also proposed that the structure stay there, but the fence come in place, right, be moved. That doesn't make it more appealing or less appealing. It is an awful structure to look at, and at the same time, just moving the fence line in you don't have anything to say that fence line is going to go back in. Just moving that fence line doesn't reduce the structure. No. Any questions?
What happens if they move the fence line so that it's 4 square meters, which is permitted?
It is permitted, but that roof, that's not a roof, that's a deck. The deck still exceeds out. So what are you going to have? You're going to have this 19 square foot or 19 square meter, and then you're going to have a 4 meter within. So you're going to have all this excess space on the outside. It's definitely not appealing.
Is the structure itself blocking light, or is it the fence that blocks the light, or both?
Right now, it's not blocking the light, but they are proposing to put a 1.9 meter fence, or 9 meter fence. So it's close to like 6 feet high, which will block the light that goes into the home.
But that's the planning department. But I think what you're saying is if it's smaller, if it's 4 square meters, then it will have less effect on the light.
For sure, definitely. And the amount of people that on that deck, the party that goes on, it is an extended living space.
Is that a separate unit in that house? Are there 2 dwelling units in the house, or 3 dwelling units?
It's two separate units in the house.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Mr. Calais? I want to ask you whether you interpret the bylaw to say that you could build a 19 square meter structure, but move the fences in, just a minute, move the fences in to reduce the platform, but in fact, the platform's still there. You may only be screened in and legally entitled to use only 11 square meters, but you still have a 19 square meter structure there. Is that permitted from what you understand from the...
Yes. Yes, sir. Basically, we're trying to get the platform only because the owners trying to reduce the costs of first of all, the couple, they have one kid, and the house is not 2 units, it's one single family. That's number one. And they have one little kid, will never have parties, basically, they say. And the other thing is, the other issue was to block the light. If you see the picture I show you, I have the sun 360, but I didn't have it with me. But you see how the sunrise and sunset. So basically, the window that they have is here. So they will not block any light in the morning. In the afternoon, they will be the same thing. Only not blocking any light. Now,
Say that again, sir.
okay. Sunrise from the light, from the sun here in the morning. The sunset is right here. So the house of the neighbor has a window here. In the morning they have the complete sun. In the afternoon, we don't block anyway because
Where is the deck? Arrows.
Yes. My neighbor is here. The
Where's
deck
your
is
deck?
here.
Your deck is
Deck
here.
is to the left.
Oh. So you only block it when the sun is after 3 p.m., 4 p.m.
Well, we're not blocking because the sun goes southeast to northwest. What is that? That's what the people.
From morning to approximately...
They have all sun, all light, no problem at all.
I see.
And our proposal was basically to keep the platform and reduce the amount of the size of the deck, trying for them to save some money. That was the point.
Was it necessary, I mean, forget the money, is it necessary to, I mean, if you were retained today to put up a 4 square meter platform deck, would you just do a 4 square meter deck, or would you do
No.
19 meters with railing?
No. We don't do that. If we do 4 feet, basically we allow from the city, right, from the building code. If we do 4 square meters, that's what the city allows, right? The building code, like to have
So you'd build a 4 square meter platform?
No, we don't.
What do you mean you don't?
Because the platform is already there. We're trying to reduce the cost.
No, but I'm asking you if there was nothing there and you were asked to put up a deck and you were told to comply with the bylaw, would you put up a 4 square meter structure?
In the platform like this?
Yes.
No.
No?
Well, with that 4 square meter, you will still block the light, right?
Pardon me?
Well, the question is, with that 4 square meter size of deck which you are allowed to put, you will still have to put the fence, you will still have to put up all those screenings, right? Let's say if you're going to do it without coming over here. And what we're trying to ask you is the difference between what is allowed and what you propose.
Okay.
How much light are you blocking towards your neighbor? Is there significant?
I don't think that even block the light right now the way that there is. The main issue and the last time was the concern of privacy. The privacy from the people that will be in the deck looking to the window because there is a bedroom there. That was the main concern.
I think your neighbor's house is deeper than yours, right?
Pardon me?
Neighbor's house is deeper than yours.
No, it's same line.
It's the same as yours.
Yes.
It looks like it is, but
Well, it's actually, yeah, it's a little bit deeper.
All right. Any further questions?
The other thing I want to point this is that all the structure has been done with an engineer approval. In the engineer approval has the city, so everything is in the city. With the engineer approval, engineer stamps, so it's nothing unsafe.
That's the building department will take care of.
Yes, so I'll just let you know that's not unsafe.
Thank you, sir.
Can I clarify just a couple things? So this deck was originally installed without permits?
Yes.
Is that
yes.
correct? And now you are moving in the railings slightly?
Yes.
To make the deck size smaller. And don't want to rebuild the platform, even at even at the 11 meters squared, in order to save money. So it's a cost-saving measure to not reduce the size of the deck. Is that correct?
Well, in this case, if we have to do it, we'll do it. If we have to do it, we do it. We have to remove the platform and make it exactly 11 meters point that they ask, then we'll do it. In this case, we're just the owner is trying to save some money because they're only couple with a kid, and you know how is the cost right now. And as I said, everything is approved by an engineer. It's not like how we just did it.
No.
Any further questions? All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You have a motion.
People can hear.
You have to turn your microphone on.
Sorry, I need to open so people can hear.
So we're just talking about, like, his concern is about this building, this deck has been built before he got the permit, and now he's coming back, ask for approval. But Chairman also mentioned the fact that not just they are trying to legalize what they have done wrong, they actually have improved it by making the changes to the railing. The question is, to save costs, they want to keep the deck, the structure, instead of rebuilding it. Am I correct, right? That's basically what the issue is.
Yeah. So
I have no problem making a motion to approve the case.
Into compliance.
Already
Not
brought
11 square.
but I can have.
Can we this
The entire deck, including the platform, is only 11 meters. I don't know that he can construct it that way because the supporting posts are on the outside of a structure that is below it. So that, in order to do that, I think the poles would have to go through the that's not.
I would be in favor of that.
support rather than deck. Put it out, doesn't block. So in that the planning testing is only going to be in small area. The time and the
The extra deck structure.
yeah. Deck is as you look down and yes, it's other I'll make a motion to approve the application. the screen stationed by the planning staff.
We have a secretary. I'll second it.
Okay.
All in favor? All Okay, you have your approval, sir. Thank you. Number 21, 410 Euclid Avenue. The purpose of this application is to alter the existing 2.5-story semi-detached dwelling by constructing a rear third-story addition. We have before us material submitted by the applicant. We have support from 411 and 426 and 4 form letters in support from Euclid and Manning Avenue. And we have concern from correspondence and concern from 406 and 438. And we have opposition from many neighbors. Your name, sir? Oh, just a minute. Opposition, would you come to the front, sit in the front row? Are you the only?
Have you found one?
Well, when you come up.
Who's the three of you, Mr. Chair? How many people will be speaking?
Well, wait a minute till we get everybody up here. We don't have every. So is this all the opposition? Okay. All right. Thank you. Your name, sir?
Scott Barker, applicant, agent to the owners.
Okay, so perhaps you could give us, since there's so much opposition, give us a presentation, please.
I have some summary documents here that have been tabbed. There's a lot to discuss today, and I would like to present these to the committee.
You have 5 minutes, you understand.
Thank you. If you remove the clip, the first diagram summarizes the letters that have been received. There were 3 letters of support sent last night. I understand from the opposition that some other letters might have been sent in, and one might have possibly been withdrawn. The existing building at 410 Euclid Ave forms a semi-detached pair with 408. This sits on the west side of Euclid, north of College. There are 6 pairs of these homes on the west side. This home was purchased in 2017 by the current owners. At that time, it was recently renovated. The proposal today is to add a 3rd-story addition at the rear of the property. That addition is approximately 8 meters long, 4.4 meters wide, and maintains the existing 1.8 meter setback to the north. The addition sits atop the original footprint of the building and extends to those exterior walls, but not beyond. There have been some party wall concerns expressed. These are structural issues relating to recent discoveries. I'm not going to talk about them specifically now, but I'm prepared to answer those questions if members of the committee have them or if they're brought up by the adjacent neighbors. If you turn to the red tab, this is an image showing the sort of existing streetscape and context. There is no change to the facade. The existing character of the street and context of the streetscape is maintained. The rear addition is not visible from the street. If we turn to the yellow tab, these are a number of drawings that have illustrations added to them. These are the drawings before committee, just with some color added. The proposed design for the 3rd-story rear addition has a number of features to minimize overlook, privacy. The first drawing, A11, this illustration shows that the rear window, there's only a window on the west side facing the rear of the property. There are no proposed windows on the north side facing 401. sorry, 412. This window has been set in deliberately to shield and limit the kind of the sideways views and reduce the overlook. That's the red illustration on A11. There are no third floor north-facing windows. There's a concern for overlook as there are existing windows on both properties there. Those windows would be permitted by code, but we have deliberately excluded them because of those concerns. The proposal does, however, include a skylight, which has been added on the roof, and that's to bring light into the center of the floor plan in lieu of having any windows facing north. Following on, drawing A14, A15, these just illustrate the existing context in terms of the existing building height does not comply with the current zoning, but it is lawfully existing. And the height variance, the maximum height variance, is only in the section that's red highlighted there on A15 for that skylight pop-up. It's in the center of the plan. It's not near any of the exterior walls. It's not visible from the street. The final illustration there, A17, is again the rear window looking down, the condition of the inset window to minimize overlook to the adjacent properties. Currently, there is an existing third floor deck. It is going to be removed, and this addition will replace that. It's worth noting that community planning will often impose conditions and require 1.5 meter privacy screens on the side walls of these decks. These decks are original and existing, but a lot of the concerns addressed by the neighbors of overlook and shading would be a natural condition if that 1.5 meter if the 1.5 meters was remained. In terms of the requested variances, is that my time going up?
Yes. That's your time.
Okay, we're going to, pardon me?
30 seconds left.
30 seconds left. I'm of the opinion that the variances are minor. We prepared some shadow studies that show that the impact on the neighboring properties from noon onward, those are the blue tab, are minimal. The official plan anticipates change and development over time. This is a stable neighborhood, but it acknowledges that there will be continued change. Does the proposal maintain the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaws? I'm of the opinion that it does. These variances are minor in nature and they're in line with similar variances approved in the neighborhood. Is it appropriate for the development of the use of the land? I believe it is. And are they minor? I believe so, yes. I think that's the end of my time.
Thank you, sir. All right, opposition, you have two speakers? Okay, first one.
We too have prepared handouts. My name is Douglas Hay. I'm a next door neighbor at 412. A brief update on my time has started. A brief update on the letters that we have received 5 more, including a retraction from one of the letters originally supporting the proposition.
Could you hand those letters up, please, sir?
Yes, they've been provided.
Oh, these are the letters?
Yes.
No.
The letters are coming.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
We're asking you not to approve the application for 3 main reasons. The first is the effect of the variances. The proposals will cut off a very large part of our direct sunlight and skylight. The shadow study, and we have 2 slides from it on the first page of the handout. There are 31 slides altogether which were submitted to the committee. Shows that the 3rd story addition would cut light to over half our windows. And if you look at it, you'll see that it cuts light even in the afternoon at the time when the proponents suggested it would not. A separate study by another professional engineer shows that south-facing ground floor windows on our house would lose half of the 129 days of direct sun we now get annually. On the 2nd floor, of 242 days, we would lose 41%. This is a huge loss of direct sun and a massive adverse impact on our house. It will also block sunshine from our deck as well as the view. on overhead B, which shows sunlight from the south before and after the proposed variances. You will see that the sunlight has completely disappeared, and although you can see a little bit of the tree up there at the roof line, you can see nothing else looking south. Our second reason for objecting to the variances in this proposal is that it's bad for the neighborhood. Our house and 410 are two of a row of 12, 6 semi-detached units, constructed 130 years ago. Their outlines and structure remain what they were in 1888. These are spiky bay and gable semi-detached houses, an historic and distinctive Toronto pattern, common where we live in Little Italy. They have narrow frontages, run a long way back on narrow lots, and are very close together. And this led to two important building decisions in 1888. First, between every pair of neighboring, that is not connected houses, there's a narrow walkway in from Euclid between the 2.5-story fronting on the street that then opens into a space 3 times as wide at the rear of the houses. You can see on the diagram of the current city plan. This plan, and second, and this is very important, the back half of all these houses was kept at 2 stories, and for 130 years it has remained at 2 stories in this entire range. This plan gave full sun to as many windows as possible for south-facing houses and reflected light for those facing north. And this is the classic form of semi-detached Toronto bay and gable. Builders used it, the footprint and reduced height at the back to allow light and fresh air into the back half of what are very long, narrow, and closely built houses. And this was excellent design for a densely built urban area in 1888, and it still is. Projects like this endanger light and ventilation in all such narrow, semi-detached houses in Little Italy and other historic Toronto neighborhoods. Rear third stories would also damage gardens like ours. Gardens are the pride of Little Italy in backyards and on laneways. The city recently named the lane opposite us Via dei Giardini. And some of our neighbors grow grapes, fig trees. We've had many fruit trees as well ourselves. The third reason we oppose this proposition is that the 3 variances recently granted farther up the street do not justify the application from 410. They're much bigger. You can see them in the photograph. They were built later. One is wholly detached, and their form and siting differ from ours. Every case differs. Context is everything. The right question is, how does 410's proposal impact us at 412 and the neighborhood? It meets none of the 4 tests of Section 45 of the Planning Act. Some variances may be numerically minor, but the resulting bulk is huge, as you can see from the blue block on page A. The test is impact on neighbors and neighborhood. Appeal bodies say numbers alone are not the test. Old Toronto has a lot of historic housing like ours, and we should respect the good planning for light.
Your time is, if you
and air
wrap up.
That we've enjoyed for 130 years. And finally, we would just say that it does not do anything to improve density. It is, in fact, an instance of de-densification. 6 bedrooms have been replaced by 3. Thank you very much.
Next.
My name is Barbara Pullyblank. I live at 408 Euclid Avenue. Members of the Committee of Adjustment and community members. The speed at which this application is developing is extremely distressing. My first objection is to the fact that all the owners of 410 Euclid Avenue put in their application on August 6th. They have not initiated conversation with us at all, and our first meeting with them was on November 18th at our behest because we received a structural engineer's report. This initiated some productive conversation, However, I feel that we are being put in inordinate time binds. The proponents, the 410, have responsibly tried to evaluate the value of the information provided by our structural engineer's report and have requested another engineer's report, which...
Our mandate is not structure. That's the building department.
All right, I'm objecting to the timelines of communication. I believe that that they will have to, that they are willing to engage in new conversations about the plans. I believe these plans will develop in a way that would require changes in the variances requested, and I believe that I request that you
Asking for a deferral?
No, I'm asking that they withdraw and submit new plans.
You're asking us to refuse this application?
I am, and I can run through the information which was in our written application, which indicated our objections based on problems with the drawing of the design with respect to stack pipes. We are concerned about summer heat issues, increase of energy demands, inadequacies or perceived inadequacies or possible inadequacies not properly yet discussed with them regarding to snow emergency, roof leaks, drainage routes, increased damage to our home. I know that this is not primarily your structural argument that's supposed to be addressed here. The primary one here was that you should be convinced that an extension not do damage to our home. So I submit that there are ways to solve some of these problems, but a new plan should be brought to the committee's attention to address these, and then the appropriate variances to be drawn from the new plan. I respectfully request that you consider that I cannot become a complete master of architectural drawings in this very short times that have been allotted to me to become responsibly informed.
Mr. Parker?
Responding to the concerns about shading of the north window, the blue package relates to that. We've submitted 2 sun studies that show the existing and proposed. The important key dates are noon. I would encourage you to look at that. In response, the official plan states that where there are impacts, it doesn't prohibit impacts. It states that where there are impacts, those impacts be minimized and minimal. And while I appreciate that there will be impacts, the proposed design is in keeping with sort of the desirable development in the neighborhood, and it has been configured in such a way to minimize, not prohibit.
What you're doing while you are talking, that part of your.
Oh.
Is that part of your presentation, or you?
No.
You might want to stop him from doing that. It's kind of unfair to you that...
All right, yes. Please sit down.
That those impacts are minimal, and I will highlight from these 2 pages. So you have a copy of these, you can flip along. These are shadow studies prepared as per the terms of element applications. On the left, the existing, on the right, we have proposed. You can probably see it a little bit easier on your charts, but we've highlighted the difference in shading. So here we are at 9 a.m. As we walk through, here is the impact of shading on the rear yard. 10 a.m., 11 a.m., 12, it almost 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, it's outside of the garden. That is the vernal and autumnal equinox. June, same thing, 9 a.m., there are no adverse effects. 10 a.m. is largely property. At 11 a.m., it is past the fence. This is between the buildings here. This is hard landscape. And it, up the inset. This is the this photograph. Here, this in March, vernal equinox, all of this is but as it is an issue, but and with there would be
Oh, sir, I'm sorry, you had your chance. No, I'm sorry, sir. You finished, Mr. Barker? Right. Yeah, does anybody have any questions?
I just wanted to ask, if I may, currently, 410 Euclid, if you're out on your second floor deck, or it's a third floor deck?
It's
third floor deck, I believe.
Yeah.
And similarly with your neighbors, they also have decks from the photographs that I've seen.
Correct.
So all of you sitting out on your decks could look across without any obstruction.
You could look, I don't have the exact number, but you can look north, and the neighbors would know how many houses you would get until you would reach the next third-story top-up. Similarly, you would look south 5 or 6 houses to where you're at the backside of the College Street developments, which also extend up above. But presently, the existing condition is that those decks do not have privacy screens.
The view is quite open for those folks that have decks currently on those areas.
Correct.
Assuming that your structure goes up, that view would then be curtailed to some degree?
The view will be affected, certainly, from the immediate neighbor north. Any addition or inclusion of any privacy screen will block their view to the north. Similarly, from the property to the north, 412, any addition or inclusion of any privacy screen will block their view to the south.
Thank you.
You have some questions.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to go with you point by point. The first variance you're looking for is from 10 meters to 11.02. So where are you increasing the height? I don't really see it. Like, is it comparing to existing condition?
So the increase in height, the existing building exceeds the 10 meters, and the only place we're exceeding that 10 meters is at the skylight. The zoning examiner identified the skylight as being an increase in height, despite the fact, and this is in the letter that I'd submitted, under section 10.5.40.10, height permitted under section 3, height of elements for functional operation of a building, various equipment and structures may exceed the maximum height by up to 5 meters. However, in the case of skylights, that skylight may only exceed the maximum permitted height by 1 meter. And the maximum permitted height in this case is the lawfully existing maximum height of the building under 10.5.4.11.
10, but just the skylight pops out. Okay.
Yeah.
And the second question I have is the maximum permitted height of the front exterior wall is 7.5 and now it's 10.2, but I don't see you are modifying the front exterior. So that's it. Is that an existing condition?
It's an existing condition, and the way, the difficulty is that the new zoning bylaw brought in these main wall height issues, and it's a specified pair. Right. And in this instance, one or the other is being taken. The existing, that variance pertains to the existing height of the existing front of the building, and there are no changes proposed to the existing front of the existing height of the existing front of the building.
So first 2 points seems to be very, very minor. The third one is the rear wall extending. I think that's the reason why you have the expansion, so that's unavoidable. And then the fourth one is the FSI, or the square footage allowed. With the existing condition, because you're only adding 300 square foot, something like that, right?
I don't have it in square footage, but it's more than 300 square feet.
Okay, let's just keep using square meters. How big is it again? 32?
Well, it would be 8 times 4.
Yeah.
Let's just say 32 square meters.
The extension that you have is not contributing to the whole increase from 0.6 to 1.11, am I correct?
There's only a 14% increase over what is existing. The existing is 9.7, where 0.6, if you look at the 0.6 number, because there's 0.6 and 0.69, this property, as do the 3, 408, 410, and 412, do have ground floor rear additions that were added to the original properties. Some plans examiners would kind of put that number because there's an existing rear addition at 0.69.
Right.
This plans examiner has chosen to keep with the 0.6.
Okay.
But I think what we have to look at is the increase over the lawfully existing structure.
Okay. And I am also addressing the opposing party, mentioning about the overall so-called urban fabric or language of the street. And I'm actually on the Google map noticing that quite a few of your neighbors down south have already expanded on the 3rd floor. Like, have you done a survey of inventory of number of houses have a similar expand?
Yes, and a lot of these homes, I can't speak to how they were originally constructed, but a lot of homes have taken advantage of the 3rd floor. A lot of homes have a kind of a dormer condition or a pop-up at the back that permits access to a 3rd floor. Some, in the immediate context, some neighbors at 412, their pop-up, is consistent with the rest of the block. They've created a 3rd-story awning to kind of extend and provide some shade up there.
Right.
The most relevant kind of similar examples, you would have to look up at the kind of 424, 426, and 428. That's where you have the kind of the larger 3rd-story addition as an extrusion up from below.
Okay. Okay, yeah.
Throughout the area, these types of 3rd-story additions are common and they are desirable. The last page, plots. In the package that I sent, I believe it's the green tab, that plots all of the approved variances from the Committee of Adjustment Research. The blue dots are all of the area increases. Though to highlight from the first letter, the first 4 of the kind of properties at 424, 426, 428, and 458, those are all increased densities, floor space index of 1.65 down to 1.03. Those all include 3rd floor additions.
Okay.
Further questions?
I think that's it.
Have any questions?
No, I don't think so.
Here?
No.
Thank you, Mr. Barker. Have a motion?
I have a motion to approve.
Couldn't hear.
Oh, I have a motion to approve. If you have any. Are you still in discussion? Okay, so I am proposing to approve the application.
Any condition?
I think there's no condition. They don't need to add any screens.
There was no staff report and no imposed conditions.
There's no trees as well. No urban forestry. There's no.
Through you, Mr. Chair, would you mind, just as a suggestion, that the height in variance number 1 add the words measured to the skylight so that the entire addition can't be 11.02?
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Satisfactory.
Yes, please.
Acceptable to you?
Only so the height is only limited to the measure to the skylight.
The increase limited.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, we have a seconder for the motion?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor? Have your approval, sir. Thank you. And that concludes the morning session.